Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic, let's do it. Cops of Reddit, what's the best story you have about pulling someone over? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My dad has a friend who is California Highway Patrolman. He says that during a traffic stop, it's fairly common for other motorists to pull over behind the CHP cruiser and ask for directions or something along those lines. So one night, this guy has a car stopped and another car pulls over behind him. He heads over to the second car after he finishes ticketing the first car, and the conversation goes like this. Cop, something I can help you with tonight? Dude, no thanks, officer, just waiting for the light to change. It becomes quite apparent that this dude is drunk as shit and thought the multicolored lights on the police cruiser were some sort of stoplight. Late on a weeknight, I found a van sitting on the side of a country road. The driver's side door was open and the driver was in the seat with his legs propped up sticking out of the window. I turned around and stopped behind him. The guy in the driver's seat was very drunk and passed completely out. He wasn't even aware I had showed up. I had to shake him to wake him up. When he came to, he looked at me for a second, straightened up in the seat, fixed his clothes a bit, closed the door, put on a seatbelt, leaned out the window and said, "Is there a problem, officer?" I was sitting in a red light at the end of my shift. The light turned green and I released the brake and started rolling. I saw a car in the cross street that wasn't slowing down for the red light. The guy blew the red light in front of my marked unit. I made eye contact with the driver, who appeared terrified and was frantically stomping the brake as if there was a live, poisonous snake under him. Apparently, his brakes completely failed at that moment. Luckily, he didn't hit anyone and was able to make it over some railroad tracks past the intersection. I hit the lights and stopped him as his two passengers helped him come to a halt Fred Flintstone style. We all had a relief laugh when it was over. I cut him a warning for defective equipment and reminded him that his car had a mechanical parking brake. In the panic, he completely forgot about it. Just 2 nights ago, I stopped a car I thought could be a drunk driver at 3 a.m. They were going 15 under in the fast lane and swerving. I hit my lights and they didn't notice. I hit the siren and they slammed on the brakes, all signs of DUI. And all of a sudden, the two people in the car start making frantic movements like they're hiding things. When I get out, they're still moving around, and I pull my gun on them and command them to put their hands in the air. I work in a pretty dangerous city, and I approached the vehicle. Turns out, they were both half-naked pleasuring each other, and they were frantically trying to get their clothes on when I stopped them. I still wrote them a ticket for careless driving since they were all over the road. Oh, you still gave him a ticket? I mean, you could have get him off with a warning, right? While working as a flagman on a busy intersection, a cop pulled up in the turn lane and seemingly sat there without his blinker on. He waited. I looked at him curiously. He waited some more. So, unsure of his intentions, I didn't flag in through. After allowing numerous other cars through, he pulled up to me slowly, rolled down his window, and asked me if I was going to wave him through, clearly agitated. I told him he didn't have his blinker on, so I wasn't sure of his intentions. He protested. I insisted, so he got out of his squad car to look. His blinker was out. A rookie officer called out over the radio that he was going to check out a parked vehicle that had an alarm going off. As I went to back him up, he says over the radio that there are 2 naked women sleeping in the vehicle. We couldn't get them to wake up, but I quickly realized that the woman who had her ass up in the air and her face buried under the seat was actually a man. My sergeant could not contain his laughter and kept asking the rookie if he knew the differences between a man and a woman. We called EMS and gained entry into the vehicle by breaking the window. The 2 people in the vehicle were naked, drunk, and covered in urine. I was also new at the time, so I tried really hard to keep it professional in front of my sergeant, but when the 2 people asked us to shine our flashlights into the car so that they can find their underwear, I couldn't contain my laughter. I came up with something to say when a woman showed skin. Ma'am, you would be completely embarrassed by trying that if you had any idea of what my wife looks like. That would usually make a pouty face. Not a cop. I'm a dispatcher. One of my units pulled up to an apparent disabled motor vehicle. Just as he gets out of the car, one of the subjects exits the vehicle and runs across a busy interstate. A foot pursuit began, and the driver of the disabled vehicle drove away. Madness ensued, with officers from all departments in bordering towns showed up as well as tracking dogs and multiple helicopters. The guy got surrounded in the woods 10 minutes later and arrested. The driver drove right up to the gaggle of police cars looking for the other party and was arrested as well. Turns out the running subject thought there was a warrant out for his arrest. There was none. I didn't get pulled over, but when I was in high school I was driving to a place that was 45 minutes away and I only knew one way to get there. One of the streets was torn up due to construction, but there was a small narrow paved area through the construction that a cop was blocking. I pulled up to the copy and told him I needed to get to a house down this street. So he said, "Follow me." So he starts driving down this strip and I get behind and follow him. After we get past the construction, he pulls off to the side and rolls down his window. So I pull up next to him. "What the hell are you doing? You can't drive down there. You told me to follow you." I didn't mean literally follow me. I didn't get a ticket or anything, but what did he mean if not literally follow him? Spiritually? Emotionally? Still confuses me to this day. I got pulled over in full dress uniform with my girlfriend, the passenger seat, on our way to a wedding. Long story short, we're in a pack of cars going about 80 in a 55. The speed limit has recently dropped from 65, and we're on I-95, so everyone drives around 80 regardless. And we pass a cop. It had been a long day, and she says the last thing we need is to get pulled over. So of course, we get pulled over. Trooper marches up to the car, looks in at me in full dress, looks at the girl in a formal dress, looks back at me, and just sighs and says, "Yeah, you're good," and marches back to his car. Look, there aren't too many perks to being a military member in the United States. Maybe a free meal at Applebee's once a year or some stuff like that, but it happened to me as well, where I got out of a ticket just for being in uniform. So thank you, random New Jersey state trooper, who let me go right around New Year's of the millennium. I had this funny little pun I always wanted to crack when someone was speeding. So there I am, shooting with my laser and pulling over this guy in a Volvo. "That was a bit fast. May I see your pilot license?" So the guy in the Volvo responds, "Sure thing," and provides a pilot license. At that moment, I decided to stop making that joke, but I let him go with a warning. "Everything seems to be in order. Drive a bit more careful from now on, will you?" I was driving quite fast in a 40-mile-per-hour zone, around 55-ish, I think. It's a big, long, empty road at 3 a.m., and I'm hungry as a mother effer. I'm heading straight for a quick burger at McDonald's drive-thru after has left my girlfriend's house. Well, I happen to drive past a traffic cop pulling out on the side road. Quick as shit, they spun around and were on me in no time. I freaked. I have a good reputation for driving. I was just very hungry. Well, the first thing the police officer said was, "You were going so fast I thought you were going to take off." Then he chuckled and asked for my details, breathalyzed me, told me to be careful, and sent me on my way. Well, I got to the burgers eventually. Never been pulled over before, so naturally I was shaken. Anyway, I did the speed limit all the way back. Some kids zoom up behind me on the same damn stretch of road. I stay at 40. No way I'm effing up this time. We go around a slight bend, and look who's there. The nice police officers from before, and this time, they've got the speed gun out. I can only imagine they watched in awe as this car with 4 kids, loud music and no care, swerved past me, swearing and flashing their lights, oblivious the police officer who just tracked their speed. I slowed a little and moved right to allow him to pull out after, which he did. I felt I had a lucky escape. I'm still very careful when it comes to driving. Not a cop, but this happened to my dad's good friend who got pulled over, who's not a cop. Late at night, my dad's friend George is driving north from Florida to go to Chicago, pitch black, no cars around. Suddenly, he sees the flashing red and blue lights and pulls over. The flashlight from the car is shining in his mirror, and as the cop approaches, he keeps his flashlight in George's face. He can't see the cop's face at all. The first thing the cop says is, "Sir, step out of the car." George has this weird feeling something isn't right and says, "Sure, no problem, but you mind if I see a badge or something first?" The cop says, "Just get out of the goddamn car." George freaks out, hits the gas and books it, speeding to the nearest exit. The cop didn't come after him. Not a cop, but a volunteer firefighter. I once was driving in my brother's car, so no emergency lights. When I got paged out to a house fire, I fly past the cop, and he comes after me. When he pulls me over, he comes up to the window and says, "Where's the fire?" I took out my phone and showed him the text with the address, and he said, "Here." He let me go on my way. I'll tell this story on behalf of the cop that pulled me over. It'll be from my point of view. So, back in high school, a few of my buddies were at the beach trying to think of stuff to do after the sun went down. Well, we had this gorilla costume with us, always interesting to bring it out at random parties, and decided to jump out and chase people walking past the pier. It worked all right, but not too many people were out that night, so we decided to drive back to the house. On our way home, we pass a police checkpoint on an adjacent road that led off the island. The cops at the checkpoint figure we are intentionally avoiding said checkpoint, and 2 cop cars proceed to quickly pull me over, 1 car in front of me and 1 behind me. A cop rushes to my driver's side rear door, opens it, and is startled and confused as a gorilla hand flops out. The other cops are now shining their lights in the back of my car and find our other random stuff, including an absurdly large knife and a large net for catching the gorilla. The cop asked me what the heck was I doing with a gorilla costume, to which I replied, "Just monkeying around." He didn't find the weed, so he sent us on our way. Very late to the party, but I've told this one a few times and it's always good for a laugh. I was on a stop in a pretty rural area just off the freeway off-ramp. My partner rolls up to back me up while I'm finishing up the ticket for my contestant. So, to visualize it, we're both stopped on the shoulder, with our both cars' rear lights on. We notice a motorcyclist coming towards us on the shoulder, meandering straight toward the back of my partner's car. Just before the guy runs into the back of the patrol car, he barely comes to a stop, then in slow motion, falls to his left, then rolls into the traffic lane like a big 300-pound roly-poly. My partner and I run over to him, and he blurts out in the most slurred voice imaginable, "What are you guys doing stop there? TL, DR, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Well, there's nothing you can do about that one. He just deserved to go to jail for that. When he wakes up, he'll realize it. I was running radar and stopped this lady in a convertible for speeding. As soon as I walked up to her door, she apologized for speeding and said that her period had started and she was rushing to the store to buy some tampons. I was skeptical until she pulled up her skirt and I saw the bloodstain. She was immediately sent on her way. In a past career, I was a park ranger for the county metro parks. In our county, rangers are fully sworn officers, so we were a police force, not just security guards. One fall night, I was sitting in a parking lot just listening to the radio when a car pulls in. As usually happens, as soon as the headlights hit my cruiser, they slam on the brakes, a 3-point turn, and out of there. No, not at all suspicious. So I watch the headlights go down the road and through the trees, fall, right? No leaves. I see them pull into another lot and park. I wait about 15 minutes, then, without turning my headlights on, go after them. I pull in the lot, then hit the car with my high beams and spotlight. All of a sudden a head pops up, and the car wiggles. Okay, no big deal, just some kids. I approach the car and get the IDs and all that, but while I'm talking to them, I can see a wet spot start spreading on top of this kid's thigh. Seems that he put his junk away a little too soon and popped while I was taking and talking to them. It was all I could do to keep a straight face and told him to get out of there. I know I'm really late, but I have a great story to tell. My driver's ed instructor, Doug, used to be a state trooper, and he showed up this dash cam video from another squad car. It was basically this minivan that got pulled over, then sped away. Well, it turns out that the car was stolen, and the girl inside was really effed up on meth. She sped off down the highway with the cop in pursuit and hits a car or three, only to run into the divider thing on the left along with the another car, while the car that she ran into. The cop filming it pulls over, and who jumps out of the other car? The one that the girl hit, but effing Doug. He was off duty and heading to a meeting when she hit him. He gets on the top of her car and forces her out with his gun drawn. It was the most badass thing I think I'd ever seen. Needless to say, we didn't F around in class after that. My friend is a cop and told me this story from his rookie year. He pulls over a guy in a shitty car for a busted light. The guy is Hispanic and doesn't speak English well. He's acting all weird, probably because he's illegal. So my friend starts searching him. He pulls out a bag from the dude's pocket, and it's full of white powder. My friend is pumped because it's his first big bust. He tells the guy something like, "You're in big trouble." The guy starts freaking out and says, "Queso, queso, queso." My friend doesn't speak Spanish, so he's confused. The guy starts making hand motions to describe what he's talking about. My friend decided to open the bag and sniff the contents. The bags were full of powdered Parmesan cheese. My friend feels like a total idiot and sheepishly hands the man his cheese back and tells him to get his light fixed. Not me, but my brother was driving while I'm in the passenger seat. We go through a green light that turns yellow halfway through the intersection, so we drive another couple hundred feet and we see lights. Now we stop, and this woman gets out of the cop car and walks up to the window and says, and I quote her words, "Excuse me, sir, but did you know how fast you were going?" Brother responds, "I'm pretty sure I was going the speed limit." So the woman says, "Well, you went pretty fast through that yellow light, and it took me pretty hard to catch up to you." So she writes him the ticket with no speed because she didn't even know. And when he asks for her badge number, she says, "Find it on the ticket." So he fights the ticket in court, got 75% off the ticket fee, and no points on his license.